We got absolutely spoiled in the latest summer preview show that has just happened. Whether you are a fan of 40k, Age of Sigmar, the Old World, Kill Team, or even just reading Black Library books, there was a lot for everybody to digest and really enjoy. And so there are going to be a few separate videos going up over the next week or so to cover all that we got shown. You know, the Chaos Dwarves, some huge potential Nighthaunt changes coming in their army book, not to mention the awesome new Votann stuff. Everything that was shown off really has me very excited. But I thought we would start first with the big new Marine news and reveal what I think most people were expecting to be shown off anytime soon, but which doesn't quite maybe point to the fact that there is going to be a Marine 2.0 Codex, which was also rumoured. There's a reason for that later on. I think maybe, although I think it is still going to come, I think it's going to be a little bit further away than some people thought. But at the very least, we got to see 5 brand new, or at least updated, Space Marine characters. And no, these aren't just some boring, generic Ultramarine HQs. These are characters from 5 of the more popular first founding chapters that tend to sit inside the generic Marine Codex. And so what we got was a brand new model for the Salamanders, the Raven Guard, the Iron Hands, the White Scars, and the Imperial Fists. And at least a couple of these you will definitely recognise. First up, we have the reimagining of the classic Vulkan He'stan. His older model did always look very cool. I am a big fan of it, but this update, in my opinion, brings so much more character to him. I love the bright, bigger burning flames on his backpack, his spear. It still just looks absolutely spectacular and so well designed. I really love the fact that even on his base, they've added a few touches to it to show sort of this salamander theme in that he is walking through literal flames. It is just so cool. The article mentions that he still bears 3 of the relics that have been recovered for Vulkan, so he's still got his Spear of Vulkan, the Gauntlets of the Forge, and he's still got Kassar's Mantle, and from the sounds of it, he is still going to be very much like he is in the current rules that we know for his model now. So he's going to be a really good force multiplier if you are bringing any flamer or melter weapons on your unit, which is something that his Forge Father rule does at the moment. You can see his current datasheet on the screen at the moment. He still gets that 4-up Feel No Pain that he can use when he's near objectives from the sounds of it. So it sounds like his actual rules won't be changing too much from what we know right now, but I imagine there will probably be a few small changes to go along with his new kit. And I just think generally he is a model and a unit that I think is really fun. It is incredibly well designed and looks absolutely fantastic. And if you are a Salamanders player and you like running lots of stuff with Melter or Flamers, you know, anything from Eradicators to Infernus Marines, he can really do a lot to boost their output. And he is going to be a model that you will probably want to pick up just because of how kind of cool and important to your chapter he is. Another returning classic is also the immovable Darnath Lysander. This guy is really quite an old model, so he was well due an upgrade, but he has got an incredibly welcome one. Coming back from his lore is just amazing. Like, he spent essentially a millennia in the warp, so he's got a ton of cool backstory, and he's one of those characters that if you've been in the hobby for as long as I have, you love him. Even though I've never played or collected Imperial Fists, I've just always loved the model and his background and just the kind of idea of him. And now he has got an updated new model to really bring that all to the fore and really kind of make it worth the kind of backstory that he's got, because his older model was great back in the day, but it is certainly starting to show its teeth. And so with the updated and upsized Terminators that we got in 10th edition, he really will fit in so well with a unit in your Imperial Fists army. I am kind of hoping that if there is a Marine 2.0 release, or there is at least a few more models or units coming alongside these 5 or a little bit further down the line, that would be a perfect time to release some resized Assault Terminators, because Lysander would go with them so well, and just a unit of 10 Thunderhammer Storm Shield Terminators and Lysander may not be the most competitive option, but damn if it wouldn't be a fun unit to throw down onto the board. In terms of the looks of his model, he does actually keep a similar sort of design. It is just sort of better and improved in almost every way. The modern style of the Terminator armor looks so good on him, and his Thunder Hammer, the Fist of Dawn, has been massively improved to look more unique, not just like a standard Thunder Hammer, and much more befitting of the name, the Fist of Dawn, whilst his Storm Shield, which always was a little bit more ornate than the usual ones, has just been ramped up to 11, and it does truly look super impressive and stylistic. He even comes, which I think is a really good thing, he comes with an actual Terminator helmet if you want him to be fully armored rather than have his exposed head, which, as I said, I think is, if I was going to buy him and play him, I would probably do, because I just think Terminator helmets are one of the most iconic, coolest parts of the model. So yes, I know he's a named character, he's kind of meant to have his helmet off, so that you can see that he's special, but I just think having that Terminator helmet would also look very cool for him, especially with a unit of Terminators that he's rocking around the board with. Like Vulkan previously, we do also have some rules for Lysander at present, and currently for 100 points, he does get you some really good abilities to help a unit of Terminators that he's with. So he grants them some boosted durability with -1 to incoming wound rolls if the attack is higher strength than their toughness with Icon of Obstinacy, and then his other rule of Rampart gives him a once per game 2-up invulnerable save for a phase, which can let his 6 wounds go insanely far for keeping him alive, and even one-on-one, the Lion won't kill him in a single phase if he gets this ability off. So he can be a super hard brick to get through, and then when he does hit back, he can also hit back very hard with his Thunder Hammer. He's got 5 strength 10 attacks with 3 damage and devastating wounds, so he is incredibly potent and really can cleave through heavy infantry or even light vehicles very effectively. So in terms of like fan favorite, he may be the best out of these 5, just because so many people know Lysander and have wanted him to be updated for such a long time, and he is so popular. But in terms of the best model, the next one is probably my favorite. So the Raven Guard are also getting a new model, but instead of getting a revamp on their already awesome Kavan Shrike, they instead get a wholly brand new character, and in fact, a brand new Chapter Master. So Kavan Shrike has stepped down as the Chapter Master so that he can better spend his time, hunting the enemy in the shadows, and instead we get Athan. I will be honest with you, he is possibly even cooler than Kavan in terms of overall model design. He is taking up the mantle of Chapter Master, and he just drips with style. Athan Shan is just one of my favorite models, I think, in the entire game. To me, he almost looks like the same level as the Eldari Phoenix Lord revamps. He is just a spectacular single character model. They have done such a good job with him. I love his lightning claws, which are almost this mixture of like bird of prey talons on the end of huge bear claws. Like, they look so impactful and powerful whilst also being razor sharp, and I imagine they're going to let him rip through things like marines just with absolute ease. He's also got a really interesting token tactical rock, which isn't actually a rock. Well, I think it's a rock. It looks almost like a bit of like petrified wood, though. I don't know if it's actually just a stone, but either way, I love the fact that you can see some claw marks on it from where he's been holding on with his back claw. It just adds so much character to the model, like he's just up there waiting and hunting his prey. Likewise, I love the fact that he's got 3 helmet options. He's got a really cool hooded option, which is probably my preference, but equally he's got a fully helmeted one, and then the token emo Raven Guard hairstyle one, which some people love, don't get me wrong. I get why some people do like it. It's just not really for me. I would probably go for the hooded one most of the time, but I just think the whole model just drips style. I really love his sort of robed banner. I don't know what they are, like robed bits of banner or cloak that wrapped around him that have those writings on him. I think that gives him a really interesting, unique style as well. Doesn't make him particularly stealthy, I don't think, but it does certainly add a lot of character to him. And then even the little servo skull things that he's got around the base, if you look closely, they are actually just winged guns, which I think is hilariously cool. And I really cannot wait to see what kind of rules he gets, whether he is even killier than Kavan, who has 7 twin-linked precision attacks with 2 damage. I imagine he's going to be something similar. He is just going to be an absolute marine killer and just be able to chew through them with those claws incredibly quickly. Onto the Iron Hands now, we get Canok Var. This is another new character who is actually the captain of the Averni clan, which is the equivalent of their first company essentially. So he is very important and very elite. He is like Lysander in Terminator armor, so the new upsized scaling, which looks fantastic. And I think we can expect the same toughness 5, 2-up save, 4-up invuln profile that you would expect from a Terminator. It does also mention in the article though that he is almost entirely augmented, so whether that will mean he gets a boosted toughness maybe to 6 or gets some kind of feel no pain to represent that, I don't know, but I think certainly he will have some added level of durability to represent that. But what they do say in the article is that because of all these augmentations and upgrades, he is very efficient and good at formulating and changing plans on the battlefield and just adapting on the fly. So I kind of wouldn't be surprised if we see some kind of rule to let him generate an extra command point to show that sort of tactical flexibility. What I also really like about this model is that yes, he's got a Stormbolter, which is fairly standard and par for the course, but his melee weapon is this enormous power maul, which is apparently based on a weapon which I actually hadn't heard of before, but it's called a Tetsubo, and it is just this massive hunking chunk of metal with those sort of bolts riveted onto it. It looks like it's going to be absolutely brutal in combat. I think it is going to be represented by having maybe less attacks than some other equivalent Chapter Master might have, but be hugely high strength, maybe not the best AP, maybe even only AP 1 or 2 because it doesn't really have any sharp edges, but then a monumental amount of damage. It is just going to be this big cleaving. I wouldn't be surprised if it's sort of like a Thunderhammer just ramped up to 11, so maybe devastating wounds, maybe even like 3 or 4 damage and just a load of strength to just show how impactful it is when he swings it into his opponent. It does just seem to be a really thematic model. I love the servo skulls that are kind of flying around him, and the whole thing just has this sort of narrative to it. Again, we are of course keeping the also relatively new Ironfather Pharos. He hasn't been out for all that long. This is just going to be in addition to him. So none of these characters, apart from obviously Vulkan and Lysander, will be replacing current models that we have at the moment. But I think it's going to be really interesting to see an Iron Hands captain style character rather than the Ironfather that Pharos was. So much more of a sort of leader style character instead of the tech marine style that Pharos is. And in terms of how that is going to be different in terms of how he buffs your units and buffs your army. Finally, we have another model which I think is very, very cool and another one of my favorites. One that I think may also be a sign of things to come for a certain Dark Angels character. We have Subadan Khan. This guy is the first captain of the White Scars. So another company commander, much like we have currently with Corsaro Khan, but unlike Corsaro, Subadan comes with all of the speed and fury you would expect from a chapter that is all about speed because he has his own jet bike. Now what I love about this model and what I love about the jet bike specifically is how much it does throw back to the newer Outrider bike chassis. It does look very, very similar to them. They are just obviously replacing the wheels with those anti-grav plates, and instead of the twin bolters, he has got an onslaught Gatling cannon to throw some shots into the enemy. It's got so much speed and like fury in the model. The fact that he's kind of like leaning out and swinging down, ready to just do like a drive-by of your opponent and cut off some heads and that kind of thing, just adds so much character to it. And I think it is an incredibly fast-moving and well-designed model, and it's going to look great alongside some things like Outriders, which I imagine he will probably be able to join. Again, we don't get any rules for him, but I imagine he's going to have those 8 shots with dev wounds from the Onslaught cannon. He will probably have a 12 or maybe even a 14-inch move, so he will be very, very fast, and I think his main focus is going to be being very, very good in melee. I don't know if his Power Lance has a name. In the article, it does just call it a Power Lance, but I think we can probably look to something like the Power Spear of the Lord Exultant from the Emperor's Children to get an idea of what it might do. So I am just going to go out on a limb and say it's probably going to be 5 or 6 attacks, probably 6 attacks at strength 6 or 7, minus 2 AP, and then 2 or 3 damage. So a fairly decent profile, but nothing super, super outrageous. I imagine it will probably have Lance as well to do some extra wounding on the charge. So it does look like it's going to be fairly good from what I'm guessing it's going to be. Obviously, if it is a named weapon, it may be improved just because it's a named weapon. But if it is just a power lance, I imagine it will be that sort of profile. The thing that I think will boost this is if he can join Outriders, which, as I said, I really hope he can, then on the charge, he will potentially be getting that +1 strength and +1 damage. So that could really, really boost his output to some pretty obscene levels. As I said, I do think it is just genuinely such a cool thematic model, and might even be a sign that in the future we could get some more jet bike models to go along with him. Certainly, I think this is an indication that Samael will be getting probably something similar, maybe slightly different in terms of design, because Samael's jet bike is meant to be an older design, but certainly I think he will be getting an update with a jet bike model. You know, he isn't going to get removed from his jet bike or anything like that, but maybe in the future there will be some new marine models on jet bikes, because it's fairly clear from this that certainly Samael's wasn't the last jet bike in the Imperium, because we've got Custodes on jet bikes, we've now got Subadan Khan on a jet bike. Maybe there will be more that other generic marines will be able to go on as an alternative to your regular Outriders. So lots of potential hints and teases and ideas of what could be coming for marines. Maybe not in this edition, but maybe in next edition or further down the line as they continue to expand the range. But certainly 5 very cool new models coming for the marines. And as I said at the beginning, this could be a sign that the long-rumoured Marine 2.0 Codex is going to be coming, because these guys are obviously going to have a place to be. But they do say in the article right at the bottom that each of these models will have their rules available for free on Warhammer Community when they release. So I think that kind of pushes me towards the fact that if there is going to be a Marine 2.0 Codex at some point in this edition, it's likely not going to come out at the same time as these 5, because if that was going to be the case, why would they put these rules up for free on the website? So if there is going to be a 2.0 Codex, I don't think it's going to come along with these 5. And if it isn't coming along with these 5, when are they going to do it? You know, there is a little bit of time left in this edition, but, you know, we are getting towards the twilight of it. So I don't know, I'm actually not entirely sold anymore that there is going to be a Marine 2.0 Codex. I might be completely wrong. It just seems weird that they would release these 5 models and give their rules on Warhammer Community rather than releasing them with an updated or new codex and just have the rules in there. Again, don't know, you might disagree, I might be wrong, but I just think that little paragraph at the end kind of pushes me towards maybe there not being a new codex, or at least not one as soon as we might be thinking. The final thing to talk about the new models for the Marines is that they are also all coming with their own new combat patrols. So a combat patrol for the Salamanders, White Scars, Raven Guard, Iron Hands, and the Imperial Fists. I will be doing each one their own video to talk through the models, the pricing and the points, and whether they're worth getting, as I do with most combat patrols. But as a quick overview now, you can see them on your screen at the moment. Initial thoughts, I do quite like the Imperial Fist and the Raven Guard ones. I think the Salamanders and the White Scars seem fairly fun and have a lot of potential in them. But the Iron Hand one is kind of meh. Who really wants 2 Firestrike turrets from a combat patrol? Certainly not me. So I think they are okay. I mean, I haven't gone into the points and costs and you know how worth it they are, but I will do. But just in terms of what you get, I do quite like all of them to at least some degree, except for that Iron Hands one. In any event though, I'd really love to know your thoughts on each of these new characters, and also your thoughts on the new combat patrols, and also what you think these releases and that final paragraph mean for a potential Marine 2.0 Codex that has been long rumoured. Do you think it is still coming, or do you think it's maybe not coming as soon as we think? Let me know all of your thoughts and ideas and theories down in the comments below, and as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe for more Warhammer content from me, but until next time, I'll catch you later guys.